Hello there. Welcome back to the Tauri Speedrun. We are in what is hopefully going to be our last season, about to start the Spanish Grand Prix, and so far, the start of this season has been decent with us having almost a 100-point lead here on Red Bull after just 7 races, and both Sano and Contreras topping the charts so far. So, looks like we're going to have a bit of an interesting start here. Verstappen has had a bit of a miserable one though, but so far it's looking very, very promising. Now, we do actually have some good benefits available to us here. After Monaco, we can actually get the design center improvement. And interestingly enough, we can actually up the project capacity here. We can get a fairly sizable boost to our drag reduction, everything really. This is another 2%, which is actually massive. So we're going to go ahead and approve the budget for that. There's really no reason not to. And as you can see, we've had the same parts fail on both cars. And with just 4 days here until the Spanish Grand Prix, we'll have to see if we might need to, well, buy some new parts. But I think we're actually looking to be good at the moment, at the very least. So there we are. We don't have any spares, which is potentially a bad thing for the front wing. So we're going to go ahead and manufacture at least a couple of these for the time being. And also probably get started on rear wings and underfloor. I just want to see what we do in terms of designing chassis, rear wing, sidepods, and suspension. Of course, we're going to design the other two as well. There's no real reason not to. The question here is, where do we invest our CFD time? What would be the most efficient use of that? And honestly, I think probably it's not going to be... It might actually be the underfloor. No, that's my bad. It's not on the underfloor. This is basically 85 to 86% across the board. That's pretty high. So we're going to save that CFD time, and we're going to invest it into something else that needs it more. But that's not going to stop us from, as I mentioned earlier, develop the car a little bit more. And we have 80% brake cooling. So the reality of the situation is we don't really need any more brake cooling than what we already have. So we're going to go ahead and get this front wing made. We're going to go a couple of tags in because, well, there's no reason not to. It's going to give us very, very slight gains here, in all honesty. But it's still going to be worth it. We can, of course, turn down the medium to have a little bit more gains in other things. But we're just going to make it like this. It's basically just going to be an expertise project. And even then, it's going to be fine. We have enough money to basically run the team for a year without any problems. Now, with the underfloor here, let's see what we can do. Can we actually get a bit of an upgrade here? We're going to be sacrificing a little bit too much cornering for my taste there for that speed boost. So, yeah, there's not really much we can do with the underfloor. As I said, it's very, very high already. So we're probably going to have to run a couple of projects here to make it even, you know, a proper upgrade. So with that in mind, let's go into the warehouse. We're going to go ahead and make 2 more underfloors right away. We don't really have a need to wait with doing that. Sideboards, we have a bit of an upgrade here, but let's go a little bit further with that. The rear wing here, we are developing cornering upgrades for the future, but for the time being, just making 2 more should be fine. And with that, I think we're up to speed on parts, and even the chassis here is going to be a fairly sizable upgrade once we get down to it. Now, I want to see exactly how we stack up against the other teams come Spain here, and we might do what we did yesterday with the around the grid save, but we just do a little bit more of a summary. I have a new idea of how I want to do that. I didn't like all the cuts I was doing, so we'll maybe experiment a little bit with that over the course of this episode. We'll see though. Again, it depends on how we do, really. So yeah, it's good to... I do still love this save quite a bit, so hopefully we can pull off the goal here. I think we will, but it's still somewhat early season. The other teams could potentially make a bit of a comeback, but seeing that we're first in everything but engine cooling and dirty air, I think they're going to have a rough time. And even if we compare ourselves to the Red Bull, who has terrible low speed cornering, this should just be a pretty relaxed season. So we'll have to see how many races we go through today, if we have anything happen. Now, we do tend to have incidents with drivers that are lacking control accuracy for the most part, and that is true, particularly both of our drivers lacking control. There was some concern that because we're pushing, we're seeing more incidents. Not necessarily is the thing, but let's face it, we are quick enough that we probably don't need to push, so maybe a bit of a mistake on my part. But with that said though, let's just jump into Spain here, see what we can do, and we'll keep on developing the car. maybe make it even into a bigger monster. Let's see what we can pull off here. Spain was a bit of a tough race for some of our competitors, as there were some unfortunate and interesting crashes. We also had a bit of an incident on Sano, where she spun and hit the wall, but still managed to limp back home and win the race, as it happened fairly late. There wasn't any super bad damage to the car.
And there's contact with the barrier.
The main concern that we have after the Spain race is going to be if we suffered any damage to car parts. We're also going to have a look at the chassis. Contreras levels up, a lot of good things happened. But it was a standard 1-2, not really much to say. But we will have a look here at, in particular, car number 2, which had damage to the front wing. And as you can see here, it didn't really suffer much damage at all in anything else. We have like a little bit more wear on the ERS, a little bit more engine wear, a little bit more gearbox wear, but it's literally 0.1% for the engine and gearbox, and a little bit more for the ERS. So this crash genuinely didn't cause any real damage to the car, which is actually pretty big. I'll be honest. It's pretty insane that the fact that we had a spin and hit the barrier with the front wing and the car, and all we had was a slightly shattered front wing. We'll take that with us. It's a good thing, all things considered. Nothing we really can be complaining about. And we've already made 6 chassis designs here. But what I'm thinking we do is we're going to invest safety time on either the side pods or the chassis here. But I think throughout this season, we're going to be using safety time on probably both of them. So I want to take a quick look here now. What can we get if we invest the little safety time that we have into the chassis? And I think it's going to be worth it, honestly. You can see here the current chassis is not super boosted in any way, shape, or form. So investing like this, again, it's going to be very, very good. We're going to do this. We're going to go for safety time on the chassis to make the car even more amazing. And we're going to be rushing it. We're going to be putting all the engineers that we can on it because we want to get this out as quickly as possible. Take advantage of the fact that we have 6 slots. And we're going to be doing the side pods at a later date. We have 11 days until we go to Canada. So we're not going to be manufacturing any of the new chassis just yet. But as you can imagine, once we actually start manufacturing them, it's going to be a fairly large benefit compared to the rest of the grid. We're still just going to stick with the old S2 here rather than the S3. The S3 is slightly better, but the S2 does the trick for now. And honestly, I'm just being a little bit lazy, but it'll get the job done until we can make a little bit of a better thing there. So that is good. Let's go ahead and just make 3 front wings as well. Keep that going. And yeah, our car is looking amazing. So I'm very, very happy with how things are going. Now, for Canada, I do kind of think that we're going to have another 1-2 situation on our hands. We also had the month tick over, so we can take a look at how our drivers have developed. And for Contreras, this is good. 3, 5, 6 points. Leveled up, cornering, braking get 2 points, 2 points of control. Defending, that's basically the only stat that we didn't really care much about. Getting cornering, braking, and control stats up are all good. And for Sano here, the smoothness, which is very strong, got a singular point, control a singular point of accuracy, but then 5 whole points in adaptability. That makes me sad. That actually does make me sad, but at the same time, I would assume that lower rated skills are easier to level, maybe. But yeah, that's a bit unfortunate. Imagine 5 points of control instead. That would have been far more valuable, or even accuracy. But smoothness is, again, probably one of the best driver stats that you can have at the moment, so don't underestimate it. I'll get the pit crew training set up, and then we shall have a look at side pods before we head into Canada. So this is what I opted for in terms of pit crew here. It's basically just maintaining at this point. Honestly, there's nothing really to it. Again, the save is old enough that the pit crew was basically maxed before the changes happened. We are tired at the moment, but it's not really a big deal. Now, for the design here, it is going to be the side pods, the 5th edition. And this is still, it is a gain. It's very slight, but it is a gain. But I think we're just going to keep on designing new side pods until we get the next safety period in just 24 days, where we are going to invest that into said pods to get a little bit more out of them. And already, We are seeing pretty decent gains. 0.2 kph is nothing to scoff at. Neither is these cornering gains, a little bit of engine cooling. But as you can imagine, after putting safety into this, we're probably going to see gains similar to what we are getting with the chassis. And I'm going to put engineers on this. You're not going to get as much expertise, really. Basically, again, I'm just going to go through this real quick. The way expertise works is that you get it daily. And by putting engineers on a project like this, it gets completed quicker. But you're going to get less total expertise than if you allowed it to run for the full 35 days. You're going to get more daily expertise. So if you can afford it, putting engineers on projects to complete them quick can be beneficial. But you'll get less total for the money you spend by making it end or finish quicker, if you will. So do keep that in mind. But yeah, we are going to head directly into Canada now. I don't think there's really anything else we need to deal with. So let's head there and see how things go. With just 10 laps to go here in Canada, we're in a bit of a awkward situation, I think is the best way to put it. So Sano's currently running second, right behind Show. We are taking care of our tires towards the end here. Contreras is catching up, however, and we do have a little bit of a tire advantage here. So I still think that we're going to be finishing first and second, but with all the incidents, we've ended up with a couple of different strategies here that we have been employing. But I think at this point is when we can kind of start trying to do a little bit of attacking. But as you can see, Contreras is running 2.5-ish ahead of, well, faster than Show and Zano. So we're kind of allowing Zano to just take a little bit easy here to allow Contreras to catch up. And when she does, we'll do a little bit of recharge for both of them, so that we can do the overtake on Show and hopefully get another 1-2 here. Verstappen and Norris are currently 4th and 5th. No big surprise there, but they're basically a pit stop behind, which is going to put them a little bit on the back foot, I guess you could say. But I think this is when we can start going just full attack and trying to make something happen. Contreras is up in second, however, so she will be the first attacker. And we're just going to do it here on the straight. We're going to have DRS. We have a faster car in terms of DRS and everything. So I would assume that we'll be able to get the overtake done. We have peak confidence as well. That should help with avoiding any sort of incident. And Contreras does get the move done fairly straightforward and simple. Now Sano's going to have to do the same, and we're going to deploy and push for her as well. And I think what we're going to actually see here is a move very early. It was a little bit later to switch, but the move has been made. And the question now is just, do we have enough push to stay ahead through these two DRS zones? And I would think so. And what I'm thinking now is I'm just going to allow them to run till the end. Sano's going to get probably a little bit of an advantage here for the last couple of laps just due to degradation. But both of them have made their overtake stick. And I'm going to allow it to push her ERS a little bit further so that they're kind of equal on the ERS usage. So Contreras is out. Sano isn't. Well, now she is, so they're pretty much equal at this point. I'll just let them race till the end. I'll be managing fuel slightly. Final lap here, and unfortunately, Sano had no chance to catch up to Contreras, but that's fine. 2 seconds between them here, provided we don't have a lockup in the last few corners. Taking out the Alfa Romeo. But Contreras does win. Sano comes in second, and as you can see, we've actually created quite a bit of a gap into Show over the last few laps here. With both Norris and Verstappen coming 4th and 5th, Red Bull's still kind of in it, but even this, you can kind of see we are in a very, very dominating position. And I believe there was a position lost here with the penalty, potentially from Stroll. We'll see about that. But I assume he is going to be losing out just a tad. Now with that, we can see here that Contreras win. Stroll did get pushed down to 9th. He was between the Ferraris. This penalty did actually kind of punish him there, promoting Nick de Vries. Now, after the 2 races we've done today, there's still a fight between Sano and Contreras. A little bit, we're going to be very interested to see what wins out, pace stats or smoothness. But I think we have the Constructors standings this time around in basically already kind of settled. So looking forward to seeing how that is gonna go here. Financially, we're also very, very secure. We're making a ton of money each race. It shouldn't come as a surprise. But yeah, I'm enjoying this. As Taylor goes ahead and improves the performance a little bit. And here we go with that first chassis that we made. And this is going to give us 37, 39, 15. Let's go ahead and make another chassis design. And we're going to have a look and see just how much of a boost this one is going to receive compared to the previous one. Already we can see here that it's not a huge amount. Like we go from 37 to 42, we go from 39 to 45, but we're actually getting close to the maximum here. As you can see, current drag reduction, the one that we have on, would be 75%. The one that we're going to be making now will have an additional 14% of that, so 89 total. The middle here is going to go to 88 total, and the engine cooling here, even without a focus on the slider, is going to hit 75%. So this chassis is basically going to be probably the peak of what we can make. So we're just going to go ahead and rush it here. We have used basically a lot of our cost cap already, however. But let's face it, we're not going to be using a lot of designs later on in the season. We're basically going to be developing the car now. And honestly, the only thing that we really need to develop after what we are currently working on is probably just going to be the side pods. So it's looking very, very promising in that regard. Now with that said, I think we are ready to just straight up jump into the Austrian Grand Prix. Calendar-wise, we had the chassis. There's nothing happening until we get to Austria. Let's just head to that next sprint weekend. In Austria, we had a small scare as Contreras locked up, but in general, this was another one of the good races for us. Luckily, we didn't have any bigger incidents than said lockup, and we coast into another one too. The others weren't as lucky though, as there was a multitude of crashes, lockups, and other incidents happening. So it was a very, very good race weekend for us. Suspension design has been completed, and with that we can take a look at what it has to offer. Not really that much, honestly. We are currently working on getting the high-speed cornering up on it before we make a, well, suspension that we're actually going to use. But even then, it's going to probably take a couple more iterations before we're there. But that's not going to stop us from trying. But as I mentioned, we do have a bit of a concern here with the cost cap. But honestly, I think that once we get basically a position where we have a little bit less, use a little bit more of it, more like it, we can try and turn things down a little bit. But already we're seeing some decent gains here, I'll be honest, particularly in the mid-speed, medium-speed cornering department. And what we could do here is make a bit more of a balanced suspension here. It's probably our final iteration of that. I think that would be decent enough. We are getting, as I mentioned, very close to the ceiling for most of these. The airflow front would be nice to have a little bit more of, but 87% is, again, very, very respectable. So I think this is going to be the final iteration of the suspension. It's going to be a very minor gains here, 0.04, 06, 04, 05 in cornering. A couple of percentages for the braking, but even then, again, we don't really hope for too much here. Sano gets another improvement to private skill, but so far things are going very well this session, as we have been basically 1-2ing everything that we can. Sano still has about 30-point lead on Contreras, so we'll see how that fight turns out. Now this is the new ATR period. We are going to be using that on side pods. Contreras contract is ending. We'll deal with that at the end of the season, and we've had some failures here on some car parts that we do, of course, need to replace. That's not really a big deal. But yeah, as mentioned, what we want to get done here is ATR period for the side pods, and I'm also going to go ahead and just manufacture some more parts while we're at it. And that should probably be, again, just a final iteration of said pods. And I'm wondering just how quick the car that we are making is going to be, because right now we are just doing a little bit of smooth sailing. Life is very, very good to us at the moment, so I don't think there's too much we can do either way. But there we go. The side pods have been made. These are the ones that we made without CFD, so now we're going to go ahead and make the ones with CFD. We'll have a look at what we can expect in terms of gains with some wind tunnel and safety time invested into these pods. Engine cooling, we are going to be sacrificing this season. We have already been doing that, but for performance. But even then, we're going to be getting a couple percentages back. Decent chunk of cornering here, 07, 10, 15. That's not bad. 23 to top speed, which is also not bad. And then we'll get a little bit more of a boost once we make the next iteration after this one. So it's looking very, very good. We'll put the engineers if we can on it. It's going to take 17 days. So in a little bit over a month, probably 40 to 45 days, we'll have the new side pods finished and manufactured, is the hope. Now, the chassis actually did get delayed a little bit by an event. So that is why it's still taking a while to finish. But with that, I think we got everything sorted, although there is going to be a rear wing design done on the first day. So we'll take a look at that, see if we think we can get anything more out of rear wing design. So if we just go ahead and make the final one, I think we are getting to a point where making the final one would be more beneficial than doing anything else. We have been focusing a little bit on getting the cornering ability up, but even then, as mentioned, there isn't really too much we can get out of this wing. We can get some dirty tolerance back, we can get some DRS effectiveness, a little bit of cornering, but even then, we are getting to, again, just the limits here. As you can see, we were at basically 78% for this, 75% for this one, a little bit less here for the low speed cornering. So we do have we could continue investing into it, but I think what we're going to do is just make a final design for the rear wing as well. Those gains are good enough that I think we will be very, very, very happy with that. Now, with that said, the month has ticked over, so let's see if we can find the driver development update. Cornering, adaptability, and accuracy for Contreras, that's not bad. Adaptability and accuracy, a good 4 points of accuracy. That's actually really, really good. That's really, really good. That's going to help us avoid incidents. So, yeah, I'm happy with that. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and get the train schedule for the pit crew set up, and then we will head into Silverstone. So I decided for pit crew here, we're going to take a look at it after Silverstone, because currently we are already at tied levels of fatigue. We're going to be weary by the end of this, so I'm thinking we'll take a look at it afterwards. But if the fatigue gain is high, we probably are just going to be able to do a couple of sessions before Hungary, and then we'll see what we can do before Belgium. But yeah, we'll just leave it blank for now until we are done with Silverstone. But yeah, it's looking good. Let's just jump into the race. After another 1-2 at the British GP, we are getting ready for Hungary in 11 days. But before that, we do have some design projects that are going to be finishing, namely the underfloor, the front wing, and the chassis. The chassis is, again, going to be most likely the final edition. I think we're going to be working on probably just chassis and sidepod a little bit more, though, throughout this year. We'll see. But we'll be having a lot of these... we'll have a lot of these current designs that we are running finishing around that time. Now, we also have a regulation change for sporting changes here. Maybe this time this one will actually go through. It has yet to go through in any one of my playthroughs. Extra gearbox, ERS, and engine limits. It is probably the best regulation change you can get. Let's see if we can actually get that through at all. And we've actually failed quite a number of components here. That could be a little bit troublesome. But yeah, I think we will gamble on being good for chassis. Hopefully. Underfloors, we're going to have to probably make one of those for sure. And suspension, we are making the final suspension design right now. We are getting into summer break, so I think we'll just stay with 3. But I do want to manufacture at least a couple of underfloors. I think would be a good shout here. Get a extra rear wing as well. Doesn't cost much, 275,000. And we can also go ahead and manufacture just an extra front wing for the time being. That shouldn't really be a big deal. Now, other than that, we'll have a look at these designs, but as I mentioned, I think we are getting to a point where we have kind of reached the peak of what we can accomplish. I don't think no matter how we design new underfloors, it's going to be much of an upgrade, if that makes sense. And if we take a look at the underfloor right now, of the current design, even if we do make one, we're just going to get a little bit more top speed. Now, that top speed can be very valuable, so we shouldn't completely discount it. But at the same time, it's costing us a lot of money. We have 42 million remaining of the cost cap. I think at this point, we do this final edition of the underfloor, where we just get that little bit of top speed, a little bit extra 30 air tolerance. Then we call it a day for the underfloor. So that's going to be the final addition of the underfloor as well. Just 0.10 to top speed, which is very, very minor, particularly when you consider it's the underfloor that we are doing it on. We're going to go ahead and attend the F1 schools. We'll lose a week of staff development, but that's fine. I think we'll be happy with that, honestly. It's not really a big deal. And let's have a look in the front wing, if that too is something that we'd like to manufacture. Probably not at the moment. Let's see if any new designs would be worth it, or if it's like the underfloor, where it's going to be extremely diminishing returns. Now, we're probably going to use CFD time on something, but I'm still a little bit undecided on what, so we'll have to have a look at that once we get a little bit closer to a decision, if you will. We could do this. This is still a decent, an okay upgrade, 0.07 Gs of low speed. Medium speed, though, it's lacking, I dare say. So maybe we use CFD time on the front wing. But yeah, that's just a very, very minor gain. So I think we're just going to keep it open for now. Again, money is starting to be a problem here. We're about halfway through the season. And if we go into the finances and have a look at the cost cap, we only have 30 million remaining. We don't have 40, we have 30. So with the fact that we're prone to crashing, I think this is where we have to just draw a line in the sand and say, we're done. We have made decent parts here. Honestly, making another front wing would be probably not be the worst idea ever, but at the same time, I think it's better to save some money, use the use some CFD time on it to get a little bit more boost, and then we'll have a look at how everything else is at the same time. Okay, short-term investment in staff and design center has run its course. We're back to usual capacity. That is what it is, but it's not really a big deal. And here we go. The chassis that we wanted is finished. And this is going to be a fairly sizable upgrade. Let's have a look at this. 45, 18, 42, and 6% extra engine coolant. This is not a minor upgrade by any means of the imagination. Now, however, I'm going to just do it normally because we don't need to rush these. So I'm going to make it normal, 4 of them. If we need to, we'll have 1 available at Spa. So I think that's fine. That's another 2.2 million of cost cap. So yeah, financially, we do have to make some pretty tough choices, I think you could say. As Contreras levels up to 73 overall. The sign work has been paused for 6 days as we've had a problem. That's going to slow down the side pods a little bit, but that's fine. We're just going to have to approve of that pause. And once again, my dream regulation gets voted down. That does seem to be the running theme of this, unfortunately. And with that, I think we're just going to jump directly into Hungary here. Hungary should be another, I think, 1-2 pretty smooth sailing. I haven't been having much race footage so far because there isn't really much going on. We get away at the start of the races and we run ahead. But if we do have races where we have a genuine fight, I will make sure to showcase that. But already we have double the points of Red Bull. We have a very, very hefty lead for both drivers at the front. So as you can imagine, it's pretty much already kind of done, said and done. So I think as long as we just run 1-2 in the front, I'll just keep on doing it as I've done it this episode. And I'll still keep on experimenting a little bit, figuring out what is the best way to maybe give a little bit more summary than what I'm doing now. Good kind of overlay to show results. But yeah, we'll be experimenting with that, trying to make it less choppy like it was last time. Let me know what you think for this one. For Hungary, we had a bit of a bad qualifying session. Usually we've been qualifying first to third at worst. But here, we didn't even manage front row, 3rd and 6th. So that sucks. And we're going to have to probably make a bit of a strategy here to kind of compensate. And what I'm thinking here is that we're going to make it a little bit challenging here, maybe. But we are starting further back. Starting on a soft tire, running it light is not a terrible idea. And the reason why I'm saying that is not a terrible idea is actually incredibly simple. Due to the fact that we're starting on light, they'll already be up to temperature. You'll not be losing as much time getting heat into the tires. So that works out to our advantage. There isn't really too much we can do in terms of strategy. Contreras has extremely high degradation, so she's probably going to end up using most of these tires. For Sano, I'm thinking we do a little bit of a different thing because Sano has 80 plus smoothness, so she doesn't actually struggle in the same manner that Contreras does when it comes to strategy. She can actually do something like this and do it fairly well. So we're gonna put her on a bit more of an aggressive one. She's starting further back, so we kind of need it, and I think that should be decent enough for our hopes and strategies. Now, let's be perfectly honest here. We still have an incredibly quick car. We can have a look at it probably after this race just to compare, because we did not have a good quali, as I mentioned. So maybe the others have caught up a little bit. But we have a quick enough car that I don't think this is going to be an issue starting running the soft on light. And I think towards the end, this Sano is going to do a bit of a comeback. We probably are going to get bogged down a little bit in traffic. But running the hards on attack, once the others start slowing down around lap 5, 6, 7, we should be able to take full advantage of them. That's going to be the hope, at least. So with that said, let's jump into the Hungarian Grand Prix. Finally, a race that we can actually take a little bit of a deeper look at, as it's been a while. Haas on the front row. That's a bit of a surprise. Ferrari has front row. Don't think you saw that one coming. Bad start from Sano down to 7th. And you can kind of see it there, probably going to go down to 8th. So, not the best start on the hards. That does happen though. But it looks like we are going to be able to hold on to at least 7th place and then work our way back up. As Contreras has jumped up into 2nd place herself. But yeah, Sano is going to have a little bit of a rougher start here as everyone else is running the medium or soft tire. But that should be coming back to us towards the end, so I'm not concerned. Now with that said, we'll settle in for this first stint, trying to just maintain, do a little bit of overtaking towards the end. But for Contreras, a very good start for Sano. Unfortunately, not the best, but let's see what we can do with this. We're currently on lap 10, and Sano has doing a little bit of overtaking up into 5th now. Probably going to be 4th very soon. Like so. So even on the hard tires here, we are fairly quick. And as estimated, as the others start taking more care of their tires, we're getting more and more advantage Sano. Now, Contreras has made a 4-second gap to Norris and Russell, and Sano is most likely going to catch up to them fairly quickly, I'd say, although not really doing it at the moment. But this is kind of what we were expecting, because just how much quicker our car is. Sano has already created a gap to Bierman, and we'll be working on catching the Red Bull and the Ferrari. Sano's getting ready to challenge for an overtake, but we have basically already used our entire tire, unsurprisingly, so we're going to jump in, go onto that medium tire. We're going to be coming out pretty far back, but as you can see, some cars are already starting to pit, so I don't think it's going to be a huge deal. Getting a little bit of overtaking done here, it's going to hopefully help us get up to peak confidence. But we also had an incident with Albon and I think that's Behrman behind us. That could have been pretty bad though, because they both stopped center of track. That could have been a pretty nasty crash. But yeah, Sano will now be pitting on this lap as the tires are running out, and she's getting held up by the Ferrari and the Red Bull driver. So this is a good time to pit. Just get in ahead of them, hopefully jump them in the pit stops. It is going to be a bit of an issue here with, of course, traffic on exit. Comes out behind Gasly and Magnussen. But if we can get those overtakes done with a little bit of speed, then we have a decent gap here up to Magnussen. Sorry, up to Pocher, that we can then work with. Now we are going to have to pit the Contreras as well. And as you can see, running the softs here on running the softs on light versus running the hards on attack, they're basically equal in this scenario. So that's a little bit interesting to have a look at, honestly. But yeah, Contreras is getting caught by Norris and Russell. That's not really a huge surprise. It is what you'd kind of expect. And I'm wondering if we might want to change our strategy a little bit. Let's see here. Would it be better for us to, say, run you on light rather than run you on hard? Would it be quicker? It would be about the same, but we can then run the hards probably a little bit more aggressively later. So I think we're going to switch it to running the medium stint on light. I think that's going to be more beneficial long term, is the idea. Asano is now finally getting the overtake done on Gasly. And then she should start hunting down the rest of the grid here. Contreras now comes out of the pit, just about ahead of her, 2 seconds. So it's looking promising for our two drivers here, honestly. But yeah, let's see if we can get Russell and Norris. I think we will. We are 17 seconds behind. They are still staying out, so we'll be gaining time and time, more and more time on them. You can see here, get out pretty far ahead of Ocon. So I think we have this kind of already as a done deal, provided we can stay on the track. We're basically getting to Contreras' final pit stop. We have stretched these mediums a little bit longer than we kind of wanted to, but we've kind of had to, because as you can see, degradation has been fairly high, and that has been a little bit of a concern. For Sano, I think what we can do is just go full attack for a couple laps here before we pit. But Norris, Pocher, Leclerc should come out all ahead of Contreras potentially. Contreras actually managed to come out ahead of Leclerc, so that's good. But Norris is also now on a fresh set of hards, and that is going to be the fight here. He's been able to stay with us as we've been running the other kind of setups. So he's going to be the threat. I don't think it's going to be a big deal, though. I do think that we are going to be faster towards the end here. But we'll have to see what Contreras can do, because the gap is kind of extending, but could also just be to the fact we haven't gotten the tires properly up to temperature. Sano here is going to have a huge advantage towards the end. Going to be on the soft tire. Going to be quite a lot quicker as a result. But it's also going to come out behind Norris, ahead of Contreras. And if Contreras can stay within DRS, Sano might be the key here to catching up to Norris. But looks like Red Bulls might be potentially giving us a bit of a fight from this point forwards. We've had an incident again. Not our cast, luckily, as far as I can see.
Now this was at turn 1.
It's
And you can see
an Albon
how tight it
incident
is.
where
And
the
contact between
Haas
the cars.
gets a little bit shaved on the front wing, but honestly, it didn't really look like it took damage. So a minor incident, but they do happen. And as you can see, Norris is just kind of speeding along at the moment, so it might be a little bit difficult to catch him. We'll have to see what we can do, though. We've had a bit of an unfortunate incident here. Sano has crashed. That has resulted in the tires being broken, big damage to the gearbox, big damage to the engine, and also major damage to rear wing, suspension, and chassis. That's probably her out of this, unfortunately. We'll have a look and see what exactly happened. But yeah, that is a big hole in the rear wing. Probably going to be incredibly slow as a result. Let's take a look what happened here. We got the overtake on Norris. We're still running pretty chill. Then we just have a bit of a spin with the rear going into the wall. That is unfortunate. But there's not really much we can do here. Even if we do pit, it's not really going to make much of a difference if the rear wing damage is major, because it's going to slow us down. But we'll see over the course of this lap just how much time we're losing. And if it is terrible, we'll just go ahead and retire. And you can kind of see we're already losing a bunch of time. But we're not going to be using any of these parts later on. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to pit. We can't change anything that has taken damage. Chassis minor damage might be a bit of a concern for Spa. But what I'm thinking we're going to do here instead is just pit. Get in. Let's see if we can maybe salvage a few points here. But already we lost about 2-3 seconds on this lap alone. So let's say that we end up losing 30 seconds by the end of this. We might be able to fight for 10th if we didn't need to pit, but we are going to need to pit. So yeah, this is going to be a bit of an interesting one to see if Sano can even score points with that rear wing damage. As we're now getting into the pit lane, a lot of hard runners. Albon needs to pit, so maybe, just maybe, we can get something done here. But I don't have high hopes. Let's put it like that. We have minor damage to engine gearbox. We have major damage to rear wing suspension, and a little bit of damage to chassis. Let's see how we are doing. And right now, we aren't gaining on Pocher and Stroll at all. But we aren't losing much time either, which is kind of the important factor here. So maybe, just maybe, we'll score a couple of points for Sano. We're getting too close to the end of this race. Sano has been able to hold on to the 8th place, but it's running a good 2 seconds slower than Contreras, even while running aggressive versus standard. So as you can imagine, this This is probably not going to work out too well for us. But even then, being able to save a few points here, that's not too shabby either. Contreras is going to win pretty easily here, I'd say. And while we are pushing, I don't think it's going to... Oh, maybe just be enough hit to snatch fastest lap. I was a little bit late in setting that up, but Contreras does end up winning. And we'll have to see exactly how Sano does with a severely damaged car. But by looks of things, we might be able to get, at the very least, that 8th place. But Piastri was gaining towards the end, and we were massively losing time. So, yeah, bit unfortunate. I don't think I agree with the driver message here. Not that second one, but the first one. Okay, so the current situation, 1st and 8th. We have Norris 2nd, then Ocon, Russell, Boucher, Leclerc, Stroll, Piastri, and Bottas. So, a little bit of variety in the top 10. Driver Championship then, it is back to being very close. Sano and Contreras just 4 points separating them. Interestingly enough, it is the 4 points gained from this from the 8th place this race. So that kind of kept her in it, or kept her ahead rather. And in Constructors here, again, very healthy lead there to the Red Bulls. So I do think that we are in a bit of a dominating position. We had also a bit of a pit stop error here, but let's face it, we didn't really lose much time. So didn't really have much of an effect anyways to the result itself. Now, we'll have to probably use that new chassis for Sano's car. And I can only hope that we didn't have any chassis damage for car 1. As you can see, we've destroyed basically everything but the underfloor. And while the engine was getting on the lower end, same for the RS and the gearbox, we are probably going to be end up taking the RS penalty at Spa for Sano, because this is the second ERS. It is getting close to the end of its lifespan, so taking that second penalty might just be what we have to do. Okay, but let's see, can we put together a car? As I mentioned here, we're probably going to have to use this new chassis, which is going to give her a bit of an advantage. It's not really going to be a big deal, but it is going to, as I said, be a bit of an advantage, and that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and install this on car 2. And yeah, the chassis will deal with that once we get there. But as mentioned in the ERS, this is the second one. We're going to probably take a new one for that next race. And with the engine damage that we've taken it to, we might, not even might, we are going to have to take an engine penalty at one point as well. So might just end up taking both those penalties, using the new one in practice. We might do that. Do a last first at Spa. That could be a little bit of interesting as well. We do have huge advantages, let's just put it like that. But yeah, I think that is potentially what we might do here, and how we might round out this episode, we'll see. Design complete for the side pods. Let's have a look. These are the CFD side pods, 23, 15, 10, 7. Let's see what we can do here if we do go ahead and design the final edition, so to speak. And we're going to go ahead and maximize everything that we kind of want. 19, 13, 11, 9. So not a huge gain, all things considered, but still a fairly decent one. And even with the cooling being minimized here, it's still going to be up to 86%. So yeah, I can be very, very happy with how this is turning out. And we are reaching kind of the cap levels again. So I think this is a good sideboard to make. We're going to go ahead and do that. Do I want to rush it though? 500,000 extra. Cost cap is starting to become a bit of an issue. I think we're just going to put 6 engineers on it. It's going to be done in 24 days, which means that we will have them probably for Monza, not for Sandwood, but let's face it, that's fine. And with that, we probably do need to make, if we go into here, now we should be good with the sideboards that we have. Suspension is probably what we are going to end up needing to make at one point though, so let's go ahead and just manufacture one more to be on the safe side, and if we need to, we'll just do another one after Spa. But yeah, that is it sorted. With that, we can now just jump into the Belgian GP, where, as I mentioned, we're probably going to do a bit of a last to first challenge. We'll see how that pans out for us, but I think that's going to be the best that we can do. We'll be installing that new chassis, the final edition, on car 2. And if we do a quick comparison here, car analysis of car 2 versus car 1, let's see. you'll see that we have a bit of an advantage here on car 2. Pretty decent chunk more top speed, pretty decent chunk more cornering. So Sano should have a fairly simple task of doing the last to first here, as I do think, but can't really guarantee it. We might have a crash again, but honestly, it should be good here. Almost 326 kph top speed, and again, the cornering ability is just insane. And if we compare it to, say, the Red Bull, we still have an insane advantage. Over 250 high speed, almost 200 medium, 160 low speed, 1.5 kph. It's not very usual that we have a kph advantage. It's usually a disadvantage in terms of top speed. So yeah, I'm very happy with how the car is looking there. But yeah, let's jump into Belgium and see how we do. So I've had a bit of a chance here to reconsider. We're about to start the Belgian Sprint, and what we are going to be doing here is most likely just stick with the ERS for the time being. We are going to need most likely a new engine for Sano at some point, but the ERS for now we're going to be using in the Sprint, get a new one for the race. And it's going to be a weird weekend where we'll have to see how things are on Sunday before we actually make a decision 100% on the ERS. Because as you can see, we are getting a little bit of rain here during the Sprint. And we're also scheduled to get rain during the race itself. So if we're getting a lot of rain, we might go ahead and kind of wait a little bit with the ERS change. We might do it on Sandwood. We might do the engine there as well. But for the time being, we're just going to do the Sprint here pretty straightforward. Contreras, who has less deg, we're going to run standard. Sano, who generally follows the line, as expected, we will be running aggressive. And we'll, of course, turn both of them up to full attack towards the when the rain actually arrives. But we don't know exactly how much it's going to be. It might just be that we are going to go in inters for the last, like, 3 laps or so. So we need to survive at least 12 laps on these tires. So we're giving ourselves a little bit of wiggle room by doing it like this. Let's see how this goes. We're starting first and fourth. So, again, we are a little bit more challenged in terms of the positions. I did forget to check how the teams are stacking up. My bad. We'll try and get that done before Sandvoort. But for now, we'll jump into the Sprint itself and see how we perform. And we now have a virtual safety car after Sprint. We are safe, still running first and fourth. But Lawson has had a bit of an incident. And by looks of it with Magnussen. Magnussen not happy about that, but yeah. That's a bit of an unfortunate one. And we have a full safety car, which is going to make it a little bit interesting. As that's going to save a lot of tire. You can see that even running standard here, Contreras is using more than anticipated. So good choice there. Sano's using as anticipated, maybe slightly less, so that's looking good too. But yeah, we'll see how long the safety car lasts, and if we maybe, just maybe, end up with a little bit more rain as a result of that, because that is potentially what might happen here. I'm just waiting for these speech bubbles here to go on their merry way, so we can have a look at the rain and be safe in the fact that we'll not get a soft lock. So yeah, it's gonna be, rain's gonna start now, in a couple of laps time, and then it's gonna go upwards towards the end. But we might actually not, as I mentioned, get enough rain here that is gonna actually be wet till the end of the race. We'll have to see if that actually turns out to be the case. We have another yellow flag. I think Magnussen just had a bit of a spin. Yeah, that is exactly what happened. Running slowly behind a safety car, he spins out and gets put to the back grid. That's generally just from the lost confidence from that incident with Lawson, increasing his odds of making mistakes. But yeah, we're going to do the restart. We'll see how we do. And again, keep an eye out here for the rain. I think we'll have inters at one point. So we could gamble at this point on full attack. But again, I'm a little bit unsure just how much rain we're actually getting. And safety car is still out. So we'll actually have a little bit of time here under the safety car itself to see what we can expect. So 3, 4, 5, 6. It's not going up super quickly, but it's not going up slow either. So I think going full attack here now on the restart is going to be the thing. Hopefully we get a lap or two before, we jump into the pits, because the pits is going to be absolute madness. Let's be perfectly honest here. And by the looks of things, we'll get maybe one 2 laps if we're brave before we do pit. Let's see if we can use the DRS advantage that we hopefully can get here to maybe get past Norris and Pocher before we do pit for Inter tires. Currently, Sana not having really a good enough restart here, falling further and further behind the rest of the pack. Not the best adaptability on her, unfortunately. But we're going to double stack, and with Inters here for both cars, we're just going to go full attack till the end at this point. And Sano, unfortunately, has a bit of a spin of her own, and that puts her pretty far back. We might just take the engine penalty here due to that then. Because that is going to change things around pretty drastically. Down in 14th now. Contreras does have a fairly healthy lead here. Maybe going on Inters here, not the best idea, we'll see. But it is still going up, so it should be the best option as Sano now comes into the pit and exits in 16. So we actually did lose out a little bit during the pit stops themselves. But yeah. Contreras looks good for the win. We'll have to try and get Sano up as high as possible. But unless we get into top 8 or 9, I'm pretty sure that we're just going to go ahead and write this one off a little bit and take the engine and also the ERS penalty here. I think that would be a good idea. So due to our car being very bad at following, we've only made it up into 14th here. We're probably going to get 13 maximum as Contreras finishes the race or the sprint for her win. But yeah, I think this is basically us more or less deciding that we are going to be eating some penalties here for Sano. She's starting 13th. She's going to be starting 18th with a new ERS anyways. So why not take the penalties here and get them out of the way? I think it is for the best. We had a bad incident. Take advantage of it. Take the penalties. Move on from there. And I think that's exactly what we're going to do. And as I mentioned, we are getting rain here for the second race as well. Potentially a little bit for wets. But this looks like potentially just softs, inters, done deal. And that I think is exactly what we'll do if we have softs available, which we don't. So Contreras will at the very least be starting on mediums. And Sano does have softs available to her. So I think that's going to be kind of the strategy here. And as I said, I think we'll just take a new engine here. Cost cap is also starting to be a bit of a concern. We've been spending a lot of money on actually developing the car fairly rapidly. But getting a new engine, getting a new ERS, that should hopefully keep us going until the end of the year. This ERS probably still has a little bit left in it, a race or so, to be fair. But we'll just eat these penalties to, again, just make life a little bit easier for us. Now, I think for Sano here, I think what we're going to do is run a light from the race start. And once it starts raining around lap 14, 15, let's say we go lap 15, we could go actually aggressive to good, to good benefit. I think what we do is just run standard rather than light. It should still give us what we're looking for here. And then we probably just going to stick to inters till the end of the race. So we basically have just 15 laps for the most part to get the moves done. We're starting 11, so maybe taking penalties here is a terrible choice. But again, I think it is just what we're going to have to do. For Contreras, we're just going to run the mediums of standard. We're going to run attack at the start of it. Then we're going to run the inters, but the mediums here have to be run on standard. Just because, well, deg is high. She has very high degradation. That's going to be the idea. We're going to be starting at the back here for Sano. No way around it. We have to deal with it. Can I actually do any sponsorships here? Just want to check this. So I'm not allowed to check this. Again, I think it's because of a sprint weekend for the most part. I'm not allowed to change anything. Positions gained. It might just be that I'm misremembering and they completely cut it from this game compared to last year's game. Could be. But yeah, we'll see how this goes as we jump into the Belgian GP.
Belgian Grand Prix.
Let us see how this goes. We are starting at the back of the grid. Front of the grid should make life a little bit easier. Most cars, however, are running soft tires, so Contreras might be in a little bit of spot of bother because of that. But honestly, it should be fine. We'll be able to kind of deal with it, no big problem. Sana, however, is going to have a bit of a tough task here because we need to. We kind of do need to push. We do need to try and get something done here, and get as many places as we can before the rain even arrives. So we'll be working on that. Let's see how it turns out. First couple laps of that, we aren't really going to be able to attack because everyone is just pushing as hard as they can. That does limit our options a bit. But although we did lose a position to Boucher, not the worst start ever. We have had a bit of an incident. I believe Contreras has actually been involved. Norris and Contreras here. Small touch there going into the corner. Luckily nothing too major. So we should still be going, but that did wreck our confidence even more. And that's a bit of a concern. Tire-wise, it's still looking okay, but as you can imagine, that is going to be a bit of a problematic thing. And we are falling behind the pack a little bit here, as you can see. So let's see, do we get a penalty? Does Norris get a penalty? I think no penalties given is the correct choice there. Lap 12 now, so the water is moving somewhat closer. So I think we're just going to go ahead and go full attack and try and allow our drivers to use their tires to the best of their capabilities here. Now for Sano, she's done very well up into 14th after 8 laps here. Still moving forwards. There is DRS trains, you can kind of see it there. 4 cars running in a row makes the life a little bit hard in terms of getting overtakes done. But it is happening. And if we can time the pit stops correctly here, we might be able to jump at least a few more cars, which should make things a little bit more bearable. But yeah, we're going to be very aggressive here. We're going to gamble on it, and we'll see if it turns out in our favor by the end of this. It is starting to rain here, indeed. As you can see, Sano's running basically inside of Albon and Debris. Not really been able to make much headway these last couple of laps. Contreras is doing well up into second place here. It's going to have a good time when we actually do pit. Gonna go ahead and give it a little bit more of a push. But I think we are potentially going to be jumping on Inters on this lap because it is going up fairly steadily here. And I think we're just going to go for 2 sets of Inters. Go ahead and push a little bit. I think that might be the best that we can do. But Contreras, though, I think maybe playing a little bit more passively could be the key, but it is going up quick enough here that we are just going to jump in immediately. I think everyone is going to do just that, jump in immediately. So we'll see exactly how that turns out, but I don't think we have much of a choice there. As you can see, everyone is currently pitting. So no such luck with Sano that we get a couple of cheap overtakes during the pit stops. We'll have to see. Maybe we get lucky and we don't get held up here, but yeah, it looks like we actually had a decent pit stop, 8. So we've jumped up massively. We came into the pits at 13th. We came out in 8th. That is actually kind of nuts in its own regard. And as you can see here, we could potentially make it till the end on these Inters. So we're gonna try and do that for Contreras at the very least. I think she is gonna have a hard time making that happen. So we might just go ahead here, overtake Russell, and then try and push the tires a little bit so we can basically get 2 sets on just to be on the safe side without degradation. For Sano, it's still going to be the same. We're still going to try and work our way forwards. Let's see where we end up at the end of this. We've had a bit of an incident here with Contreras. She has crashed, as you can see. So that is pretty bad. Chassis, throwing, and suspension damage, as well as the tires being gone. So we're going to have to pit pretty much immediately here, as soon as we can. I think we are not going to be replacing that front wing if we want to have any chance of still staying in the points. And Sano has made it way up to 6th, but even then, it's not a good time. Crashed on turn 4. We have been completely unable to get any overtakes done, but yeah, it looks like just light rumbling damage. So while it's very unfortunate, it is probably due to the low confidence that we've had. We've been completely unable to get any sort of overtaking done here, and that has definitely hampered us a bit. 15 laps to go, and we'll have to see if we can make something happen. Now, on the positive side, as with Sano, there wasn't really too much damage to components. Well, at least in the first crash today. There wasn't too much damage to components, so we're fine in that regard. But you can kind of see just how much quicker Sano is at the moment. And we'll have to see exactly where Contreras comes out here. She's now in the pits, getting new tires, and she's going to come out in 9th. We're going to have a hard time getting overtakes done here. We are always struggling in the rain. It's kind of my trademark. But with minor damage to 3 components as well, it's going to make it even harder. No DRS to help us. But we'll try and get something done here. Contreras should be able to just throw it in the full push now. We can deploy. We can up the risk a little bit by going high if we need to. But yeah, we'll try and get that confidence back up. We'll try and get some overtaking done. And maybe finish in a little bit of a higher position than we're currently in. We're currently starting the final lap here, and there's not really much we can do, honestly. Sano has been stuck behind Verstappen for a while. Just can't get the overtake done. And for Contreras, just can't really catch up to the cars in front. And has even been struggling to get anything done. So, yeah, not really a good time around this place. That is very, very unfortunate. But these race weekends do happen, and it's better, I think, that we get this out while we have a rainy race than if we did it during, during a different day. Let's put it like that. Sino did have penalties, so while coming 5th, it's not the best. It's still, I think, acceptable. The Red Bulls are 3rd and 4th. We have Russell winning. We have Pacher 2nd. So, while not great, it's still an acceptable-ish result. It's just been a bit of a bad day for us here. Now, with that said, I believe they kind of retained their current positions. Sano 5th, Contreras 8th. Remember, we had the sprint before this. Contreras did win that one. But Sano should be keeping her lead then. 3 points is the difference now. And take a look at the Constructors then. We're still pretty healthy. Red Bull is still... They're catching up right now, but let's face it, they're going to have the rest of the race weekends aligned like that to make that happen. And even then, we have Pacher, we have Russell, both being a bit of a threat for that. So, I think we can be happy. Bit unfortunate, as I said, with the incident with Contreras. She was kind of just managing at that point, so... It happens. Not much we can do about that. We're going to have to pay some fees here for not managing to do finish positions on the podium. The finish streak on the podium. That is fine. That is something that we can handle. Mid-season board review, target position is 2nd, we're 1st, we can be happy with that. They also want us to win the Constructors, and we're getting that done, so the board confidence is high, and they're happy with the job that we are doing. However, I think that is going to be it for today. As I said, we are speeding up the progress of quite a lot of these series. Let me know what you think of this. Again, the other races didn't really have much going for them. We kind of just did sit back, relax, kind of coast into 1-2s. The couple of races that I've shown here did have a few more incidents, and that is generally why I've elected to showcase them. Now, for this series, I think that we're going to be wrapping everything up in 1 to 2 episodes. A single episode, most likely, if there is no real fight between Sano and Contreras. Genuinely, I haven't been giving any of them preferential treatment. This is kind of just happening on its own. So, if there is a close fight, let's say we're in the last 4 races or so, we might just go ahead and I might just go ahead and cut that out and make it an episode. But you can expect this series to wrap up within the next 2 episodes. So probably sometime next week, a lot of series are starting to wrap up. And next week I am going to get started on Maximum Weight Challenge, probably with Alpine. But we'll see what we do there. Thank you for watching, hope you've enjoyed, and let me know what you think. Bye bye!